Hi everybody, this is Craig Teener for The Mindful Eye and the photo of the week on the Daily Critique. This week's photo of the week was submitted by Cyan, who's an advanced photographer from Virginia. Cyan shot this with a Nikon D50 12-24 zoom at 16 millimeters, so the effective focal length is 24 millimeters. And at ISO 200 and f6.3 exposed the file for 2 seconds. And on the backstory, Cyan says she shot this on the James River very early in the morning, about 7:30 a.m. on an overcast day. And she said she just really liked the stark quality of the composition. I love this image. One of the things that I love about it right away is just how much of an illusion is created here that I can move through the image. I've been talking about this a little bit lately, so we can just come back to it again today. Thinking about a still photograph in terms of planes of movement that describe the planes of movement through an image that we would talk about if we were doing cinematography. In cinematography, we talk about the X, Y, and Z planes of movement, or the X-axis, Y-axis, Z-axis. X-axis is horizontal movement, Y-axis is up and down, and Z is the illusion that you can move through. And that's just so palpable here. You have the converging diagonals of the railing that lead out and converge to this point in the distance. And then the fact that it is a railing and it's a pathway. It's not just the quality of line. It's the subject matter itself. And it's also the way that light moves, particularly on the base of this pathway or walkway. A very, very powerful way, in addition to something like converging diagonals, to create the illusion of movement through on the Z-axis, is to have what Cyan has here. As far as light on a subject like this, a leading line, dark in the front, moving out to light, and you get dark again, and then light, and then dark. That sort of rolling contrast, particularly with it starting out dark in the front and giving a feeling of really opening up in the background, really creates this feeling of a far room, a distance room moving through that we can get to in the image. So I love the depth here. One of the other things I really love about this image is just the powerful juxtaposition of a reality that seems very stark, very metallic, almost futuristic. And for me, the texture here on the walkway and the metal railing and the superstructure here of the bridge, all of this to me feels very futuristic. I mean, I can almost sort of think of, archetypal words that sort of suggest another time period. So like the word monolith, I'm sort of getting from this. And then you have this very natural environment that sort of comes in and encroaches in this space that seems very futuristic. The feeling of the trees and the real filigreed line of the limbs, the riverbed in the water. So I just love the way those two ideas are playing off of each other. The other thing I love about this image is that there's a very, very powerful sense of symmetry that you get when you look at it. There's also a level of sort of literal and then almost abstract in some kinds of ways. But one of the things I love about the symmetry in this image is, in some sense, from a distance, you sort of get a sense of perfect symmetry and a perfect centering of the main subject. But then as you move through here and you start to look at the image closer, there are things that break up the symmetry, but in a very subtle way. And that seems to draw me deeper and deeper into the image as I sort of start to enjoy the subtle imperfections of the symmetry. You have the limbs coming in over here, and it seems like a repetition of that over here, but you don't have the limbs. You have basically what looks like etching that sort of rhymes the limbs on this side. Pretty strong symmetry here and here, but then it gets broken here where this little bit comes down and this edge is straight. You've got graffiti here that's pretty powerful, nothing to sort of balance it over here, maybe with the exception of this. This is a lot more dominant in terms of this sort of archway of the tree on the right hand side and not so much on the left. Same thing's happening down here in the water, just whatever this is, whether it's ice or snow or just the bank coming in, it's happening in a way that's subtly different from side to side. Just love this image. For me, something about this feeling of sort of this futuristic and hard and cold kind of environment, and then the softness of the trees coming in is very, very evocative. And and I get just a real strong sense of wanting to literally be able to walk into this space and have this real quiet sort of experience, just being there alone. This image really evokes a feeling in me that I'm there, that I could be there. Beautiful image. You know, I wanted to sort of have a runner-up image today, very different. We're going to look at a very strong color image here in just a second, but similar in that the image has been sort of bullseyed and centered, and so I wanted to, in addition to looking at Cyan's beautiful sort of architectural landscape image, I wanted to look at this very stark and very brilliant colored image from Bob, who's a beginning photographer from Florida. Bob shot this with a Nikon D70S and effective focal length of 180 millimeters, so a pretty long telephoto here, and shot this in very early light, 40 minutes before the sun came up in nautical twilight, which is part of the reason why we're getting these colors here. It's a great time of day to get a lot of color and a real dramatic color gradient. Bob shot this at f8 ISO 400, and this file was exposed for 15 seconds. This is Sunshine Parkway Bridge outside of Tampa. One of the things Bob asked about in the submission form was, you know, is the bullseye working? And I think it is, in the same way that it works in Cyan shot. When we're shooting architecture and you're shooting something, let's say like a church or a courthouse, structures that tend to have an enormous amount of symmetry, then I think it can work very well to photograph these things just like they're being shown here and in Cyan shot. In Cyan shot, the feeling of tonal movement and the diagonals really help to get us around or past the idea that things are being centered. And in Bob's shot, you have a tonal and color gradient that really creates quite a bit of depth on the z-axis moving through. I think the other thing that's doing that in this image is diagonal movement. You know, you've got both of the major diagonals that are implied here. Even though we don't have the whole quality of line. I talk quite a bit about this. You know, we have two ideas of quality of line. We have actual quality of line, and then we have implied movement that can create the feeling of moving on a line. And I think the playing off of the major diagonals with the structure of the bridge helps to break things up. And, you know, it's just not perfectly symmetrical. It's another image where there's subtle differences on either side. When you look into this area of the image and this area of the image from left to right, when you look at what's happening with the reflection here, stronger here, not so strong here, this part of the substructure of the bridge is stronger here, and so on and so forth. And again, this gradient back here, light coming into the real intense color and then how it's broken up, creates an image where I can look at it and see the symmetry and kind of order, but as I move in and look closer at the image, there are enough things that are subtly different to really bring my eye around and really enjoy sort of all parts of the image. Two very beautiful images, very different obviously just in terms of how dramatic this color is after seeing Cyan's black and white image, but very beautiful images. I really want to say a big thank you to both Bob and Cyan for sharing these images with us on the Mindful Eyes Photo of the Week on the Daily Critique. Hope everybody has a great weekend.